right, here we go. OverDrive off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker, and up on TSN 4. Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan.
What's up?
How are we feeling this afternoon?
What the hell's going on outside? I'm sorry, guys.
Sickening. It is sickening. It is disgusting weather. It's snowing. It's ice. It's cold. It's windy. It's disgusting for April.
And what it does is it delays golf for like 10 days. Every one of these days feels like it's 5 days.
That's right.
I thought of both of you. I'm not language is the weirdest thing because I should think of so many other things. But when I saw a blizzard outside my window this afternoon, all I thought was you two tinkering in the garage with your drivers and everything going, these guys are jammed up for golf. And would that mess with the courses and stuff? Were they already setting the courses up?
It's like the time of the year where they want to get their greens going and they want to take the tarps off and okay, here are the greens. But then you have a day like this and the superintendent's probably like, that ain't happening today.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yet it's supposed to be really nice tomorrow and on Friday. So I don't know. It depends on where you are, what you're playing, like even ranges, and people want to get outside and play tennis and pickleball and golf and walk your dog in peace. Like watching people today, it's crazy how miserable people are when it's bad weather in April, and you think you're out of it and you just want to move on with your life, and you got to get your jacket back out, your hat and your gloves. It's depressing. Yeah,
dude, it's disgusting.
It's still kind of hockey weather, and I guess we're still in a position like that. I will also say we were reminded, and I had no idea that this was a big anniversary for the show, but 4 years ago, Al's brother and the O-Dog ran their 40-yard dash, and it was sunny and beautiful outside.
Glorious.
We would have had to cancel the 40-yard dash 4 years ago if the weather was like what it is today, and there's a chance you guys would have weaseled out of it and said, forget it, we don't have to do it. We got so lucky 4 years ago that we got perfect weather for a 40-yard dash.
Video gold for the rest of our lives.
That's right.
See,
That's right.
What concerned me about that thing popping up on my phone from you guys and on Twitter is after that race, I had more keys to get into. Like, there was more damage after that race.
That's right. In terms of feeding and all that stuff.
I didn't get to my...
That wasn't an awakening for you.
That wasn't peak. That was
a
peak.
Coma.
No.
Like, that actually knocked you out and put you in an even worse place instead of snapping you out of it.
I watched myself running the 40, and I'm like, it's game over, man. That was basically my beat-up minivan. Like... I saw the minivan. It's a pile of crap, and I said, "That's it. Like it's over."
That's how I'm going to operate. And the sour keys and all that kind of stuff was still a part of the rotation. Yeah. Yet 4 years later, much better position, right? And Al's brother, much better position. I'd like to see both of you compete again. I'd be curious if you could clock in, less than 10 seconds.
See, this is.
But guys, I will say,
I
was so
this right
stiff.
right there.
That's the worst running form ever in the history of
you know
humankind.
that I run better than that. I just got out of the car, and my lower back and my knees were so stiff, dude. You can't give me that. That's my actual running stride.
Wow. See, I find that I'm going to push back on that because you always go at me. And I'll use a golf analogy where I will pull into a parking lot on two wheels and run to the first tee.
This stride here is
insanity.
That's Al's brother. We're watching Al's brother right now. He beat you. I mean, that is shocking that he beat you by a significant margin. Like, he would move up draft boards. He would be drafted in the third round based on those numbers. You may go undrafted.
Al's brother was moving up draft boards.
Up draft boards with the agility and with the skill and with the athleticism. But when it comes to other things you do in your life, you show up early and you put in effort beforehand. Yeah. I'm not convinced you went right from behind the wheel to the starting line. I think you were limber,
You think
man.
he was in the back parking lot?
Yeah.
The things that I show up early and prep for are things that are enjoyable. There wasn't a whole lot of enjoyment in that. I was like, I got to run a 40, and this is probably not going to be good. Literally, Al's brother. I parked. That's my truck, I think, right there. And I got out and I said, "Is it time?" Look at how slow that is,
But
man.
I've got many questions as to, like, this is before you or after now. Do you still own those? Those are like blue knicker pants. I don't know what you were running in. They were like loose up top and then tight on your like calves. I think. Like,
Those
do
have
you
a
still own those
drawstring,
pants?
man.
Like,
Those things.
because if you put those pants on, you could wear that as a bodysuit now.
Yeah.
Part
you
of the
can blow your
psychology
shoulder
for-
out unlooping those. Like that thing, the drawstring on that started behind your ass, and you had to fire that thing out like starting a motor.
Yeah.
I
That
need
was a
to see those
lawnmower
pants.
pull.
Yeah, that's a lawnmower pull.
But what I did is, once I started working out with the life coach, and I started digging through everything, and if it said double XL on it, I lit it on fire. And I'm
Good
like,
for you.
never,
That's inspiring. You
yeah,
don't want to go
never
backwards.
again will I ever see that. And then soon after that, anything XL, lit it on fire. I only wear a large or a medium. And it's the day, I even told my lady, the seamstress, I go, anytime I ever come in here and say, can you make something a little bit bigger? Because I went through those phases where I'm like,
Yeah.
you got to make this, can you give me some, like a couple inches on this jacket here? And then she'd look at me and she's like, I don't know. I'll do my best.
It's tough to add thread. Like you could take
Dude,
thread off.
When
but
you're
adding
adding thread, you need like a magician. I think she had to send them away to a magician.
Dr. Oz was
Yeah.
your tailor.
Yeah.
You need.
That was Dr.
I know it, man.
Oz.
I've done it. I've been there. I've been and the threads off. It's a
Doesn't match. Like, it doesn't match. It's
Dude,
like
you
a
got
blue.
a pair of pants. You got a pair of pants that you still somehow think you look good in, and you go in there and you're like, I'm begging for a goddamn half an inch on these things because that's all I got. And
Yeah.
she's just looking, her eyes pop out of her head. And she's like, I don't know, man.
Well, that's them, like the mistress, or not the mistress, the seamstress,
yeah.
or the tailor sending you a message. If you come back in 3 or 4 days later and there's a completely different color that they've used, they basically said,
Yeah.
don't ever do this again. Don't come to me
they-
again. I can't do it. I can't make it work. But
That
here you
if
go.
they use a different, like a pattern material on a blue jean, that is basically saying F off.
That's
Let's say go somewhere else
Yeah,
and buy
like
new
a
pants.
plaid
Yeah.
material on blue jeans. That means F off.
Yeah,
that's code.
That's
what
code.
it is.
That's basically them. That's spray painting. Like that is.
But I
effectively
told
them
you guys
sending a
after
clear-cut message.
after that, it's an amazing transformation because what I didn't realize, and I've told you guys this before, is how much beef you put on, like on your upper back and your shoulders. Because when I had to shrink my jackets, I had to take 7 inches off the arms.
Oh,
man.
I know, dude. I went through this because I started losing weight when I was like almost getting married. Like it was between like engagement and marriage where I kind of lost weight, and I went in to wherever I bought the suit, and this was early in the process of losing weight, like 5 to 10 pounds. And you guys know I lost like 60 or 70
Yeah.
pounds. I lost a lot of weight, and the guy's like, all right, fire up a suit, come back in a couple weeks, and sure enough, I came back. I don't know why I didn't try it on. Anyway, I went back like a month later, and the guy's like, what are you doing? This suit, you can't wear that suit. It's your wedding suit, and you've lost like 30 pounds, and you realize it in the arms, in the chest, everywhere, man. It'll find a place.
Just
but
shrink. You just
anyway,
shrink. That
anyway.
video it's one for the ages, and like I say,
It's
it's
all-time
great
great.
for us to have some fun with it. But it's that was a weird time, anyways. Was that before COVID? During COVID?
No,
in
it was
co-
4 years ago. It was 2021. So
Yeah, so we're kind
yeah,
of.
I guess
coming up.
I don't know. I don't
We
know
were at
where
home.
were
I
in the
feel
world.
that we were at home because you look at the video, like I'm wearing like a velvet shirt or something.
I
very
think the only
relaxed.
reason I was in there that day is because I had a Leaf game that night, so I might have been only in for a certain
That was
time. Who
crazy.
knows? Probably
Yeah, I
the
don't
tail
know.
end of it.
I don't know what else
Yeah.
brother was doing in there, but Anyway, speaking of which, we got a Leaf game tonight and a big one.
Yeah.
And the Panthers are, I guess they're licking their wounds because the Habs got them last night. Like Nick Suzuki scores with like 9 seconds left and then scores 30 seconds into the overtime. And the Habs steal 2 points. Like they stole a point, and then I guess they earned one in overtime, which was just an incredible theater at the end of the game at the Bell Center last night. And, the Panthers, they've struggled against Montreal, and this is going to be a scenario tonight where 2 different worlds are going to collide. The team coming that's about to play the second night of a back-to-back versus the team arriving home from a West Coast road trip. Like, which one is more of an disadvantage, I guess, in your opinion? Is it the back-to-back for the Panthers, or is it the Leafs who haven't played since Sunday but had to fly in from California and might be a little bit rusty?
I think the advantage goes to the back-to-back team because the ugliness of going, and whatever the reason, if you have 1 day or 2 days or you play the very next day, when you come back from the West Coast and the Leafs have been thrown into the mix, I think they bucked the trend maybe once or twice, but you just stink the joint out. You have no life, your body clock is off, and your legs aren't moving, your brain's not thinking. So you would think the scenario alone would just force them to mentally erase all of that. But I don't know, as a goalie, goalies don't play back-to-backs typically, but I always loved the second game of a back-to-back because there was no kind of, your warm-up could be shorter. It was like, I'm already loose and fired up, and it's just a continuation. Like, just get the engine fired up again, and away you go.
It is. I think they're equal because you make a great point. But I think what happens, especially with how fast the game is, the fatigue could come in. If it's a fast game, it's a high-paced game. If there's some physicality, maybe that's where the third period you start to see some fatigue in a back-to-back. I think they're equal in a sense because you are coming back from the West Coast, but both teams are aware of it. That's the crazy part. So I'll say this. I didn't get a chance to watch that Florida game. I was calling a game, but I was tracking it, obviously. And I'm like, okay, looks like Florida's in pretty good shape. Sam Reinhart had a tough, we'll call it 39 seconds, because the puck was behind the Montreal Canadiens net with 17 seconds left. They go to dump it in. He goes to, shortstop, and it goes to Suzuki on the back door. I don't think they could do that again.
No.
That was one of the luckiest plays. It might be just, it might be fate for the Montreal Canadiens. Good for Nick Suzuki. He's in the right place, right time. And then Suzuki's, that play, I don't think they would do it 99 out of 100 times.
Well, if you look at Suzuki, he's going behind the net thinking that Hudson's going to fire it around the net.
And this play in overtime is great, but that's Reinhart chasing him, and he's late on the play. So, I'm looking at it, and, you could speak to this, because on a night like that where Reinhart, you circle that and go, that's a tough 1 minute of your life, okay, in hockey, and he's an unbelievable player. But all I could think of is Reinhart's going to have a game tonight to bounce back. That's all I thought about, because I'm like, that guy, he didn't have the best 1 minute.
I don't think he had his best
night,
period. I was watching him. You noticed him for the wrong reasons. It was like, man, is that Sam Reinhart? He wasn't on his A game,
he didn't have
he's going to respond.
It happens, but both of these teams are going to go through this type of, coming back off the West and back-to-back. It could be a unique game tonight.
Yeah, I'm wondering if the Leafs, I watch kind of you watch the excitement level of the Habs, and I think they're really fired up, and you watch the Capitals, and I just pay attention to little things like the Capitals before a game standing in the hallway, they're getting pretty jacked up. Ovi's singing with Chikrin, and they're all high-fiving, they're all getting their juices flowing. I'm wondering if the Leafs can, bring some energy and some mojo tonight. And the crowd on a Wednesday night, I don't know if they all kind of go together, but I just want to see some juice. It's this is a big game. Let's play like it. Let's bring it. Let's bring our own excitement, because God knows if you wait for the crowd to do it, it might not happen. But I just want some juice. You saw that excitement in the crowd last night, the second best fan base in hockey last night in Montreal. It was pretty exciting.
Yeah, it was. They're riding a wave right now, man. And it feels like they're
getting everybody
destiny
on board, Brian.
Yes.
The way they're doing that, and you're seeing the fans and the players, it's like the whole hockey world's on board with Montreal, saying, "I hope that team gets."
It's
in."
Incredible. They're a very, very fun team to watch. Like with Hudson had 3 assists last night. He
got
is a
rookie of the
blast to watch play. He won the Calder last night.
Yes, he did.
Absolutely. There's in my opinion, there's no excuse for him not to win it. I get it. Celebrini's been good. Michkow's been good. Wolf's been good. This guy's got I think as many assists as Cale
57 assists,
and he's hit over 60 points, and he's putting up big numbers, playing big minutes on the point. He's a big part of the driving force behind this story in Montreal. It's Montreal. I'm sorry that matters in terms of the way people react to things and the way people vote. I think Hudson he was the lead horse before it. I think he won it last night. And it is just one of those energy-building teams. And it reminds me of the Leafs back in 16-17, that first year with Matthews and Marner where, coming down the stretch, they were jockeying for position, and they were this young, exciting team, and everyone jumped on the bandwagon. And ironically enough, they probably run into the same team. Like that year, the Leafs played Washington in the first round, and that's what is going to happen here with Montreal. If they can punch their ticket, they're going to play Washington in the first round. And that will be a great series. But yeah, I'm with you in terms of where the Leafs are at. Like I'm curious the body language. I'm curious the energy around the team, and we asked Jonas this last week. Like, are you sensing that they realize what's coming here? Like where we're going, they're almost there. Like after Game 7, it was can we fast forward 50 weeks and return to Game 1 and show the world that we're going to be different and that we believe in ourselves? That is rapidly approaching here. And they keep paying lip service to how big this game is, but I don't think you can undersell it. I mean, you got a buffer on Florida here. You haven't beat them this year. You're 0-2 against the Panthers. Stolarz has played both those games. Stolarz will get the start tonight. So I think it's big for him in net, and I think it is big for the Leafs, not only for the standings, which is clear-cut, but also to set the tone for the playoffs. And you got to beat this team. You got to get them. Like, and Marchand's making his debut against Toronto as a Panther. He's played a couple of games now, but he's going to be buzzing tonight. And I am quite curious to see what Toronto brings energy-wise, early in this game.
And I want to focus on one thing, because we got another Florida game coming up, and I got to do a little pre-scout on it. I want to see what they're going to bring to the table 5-on-5. That's been the big issue with the Leaf star players. Can they get inside ice, and can they make things happen 5-on-5 against big, tough, competitive dudes that want to win? And that's what I'm going to be focusing on tonight. How does Mitch Marner fare against a guy like little ice, and it's competitive, and it's very physical, and it's kind of a man's game out there? All of them, all the usual suspect. And bigger picture, the whole team. How does this team fare in those circumstances? But most importantly, what they can accomplish 5-on-5 offensively. Can they get opportunities? Because that's what's failed them in the past.
Yeah, big time. And you're
like
healthy,
their power
and you're
play
ready
can go
to
and
play.
score a goal because you're on a power play. You got time and space, and you can zip it around or whatever. But 5-on-5, if you're talking about a 7-game series against a quality opponent like the one they're playing tonight, it's a big difference what you can muster up. Because the Florida Panthers, watching them go on 2 cup runs, they just went out there and it wasn't McDavid's skill, and obviously there's Barkov and there's some special players, but they literally mauled you up front. Like, they would crush you in the corner, and they would maul you, and that's how they were like the Hansen brothers out there. Every line, it wasn't like a skill-first game. So it's going to be fascinating to see how the Leafs stack up with that.
Yeah, Florida plays I would call it they contest ice. That's what they do. Like, that's how playoff hockey is every piece of ice you got to fight for. And there's not a lot of space to, do the circle back and, hey, dust the puck off of snow and, all of that. It's they contest you, and they're on you, and they play with pace. But, this is a playoff stretch. This is a playoff team. We don't know what the standings are going to look like. This Tampa team's not going.
They are red hot, man.
And
like that's the thing. It could still be Tampa, 1 seed, Leafs, Florida, and you're playing for home ice tonight. As much as anything, it could be about you want to get points to make sure if you end up playing Florida in that first round, you got home ice.
You got to take care of what you can control.
That's all you
really
can do.
The truth,
but you got 2 more against Florida. You got another one against Tampa. Tampa is red hot. They're not losing right now, it's any combination of who the Leafs are going to play, whether it's Tampa, whether it's Florida, whether it's Ottawa, you're going to be able to spin it both ways. We mentioned fear factor, and we'll get to a few in terms of the Panthers later this afternoon. But it's long overdue. The Leafs, you got to take the bull by the horn, and tonight would be a big example of that. Big opportunity for them. It's a big game. It's a playoff field tonight. Doug Armstrong will join us in 10 minutes. As good as the Habs story has been, the St. Louis Blues team, they've won 10 in a row. They did it again last night.
Yeah.
And they are as red hot as anybody in the league. I think they leapt over Minnesota last night.
They did.
So all of a sudden it looks like they could be going to Vegas as opposed to Winnipeg. Although Winnipeg lost in LA, they're only 4 points up on Dallas, and Dallas has a cakewalk of a sked coming home, including a game against Winnipeg at home in Dallas. So they're in Vegas tomorrow night, Winnipeg, and Dallas is right behind them, man. They got a game in hand. They're 4 points back, and they play Winnipeg, and then they play like Nashville a couple of times, Chicago. They got some layup games here.
Well, and the beauty of it, if you're just a hockey fan, like there's a lot of races here. It's not just like, hey, like you look on both sides. You mentioned it, like Winnipeg's trying to win the President's Trophy. They might not even win their division.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy how Dallas has crept up on them. But, it's the races at the bottom, the races at the top, in all these divisions, conferences and that. It's pretty impressive. This St. Louis team, they're not losing right now. At some point, you think, okay, I thought last night Detroit had them. Like, it was 1-0 late, and then they find a way, and man, 10 in a row, and they're rolling. They're
That's
feeling
what
it.
happens with these incredible stories. You're going to win games where you think you don't deserve to, or you think it's over and the lights are going out, and you find a way to keep that streak cooking at this point. And that's exactly what St. Louis is doing right now. So their GM, Doug Armstrong, would join us and get his take on how it's turned around. Is it giving him flashbacks to 2019? Is he getting 2019 vibes here when they came down the stretch red hot and rode that wave all the way to a Stanley Cup final and ultimately won it? So we'll catch up with him. Chris Pronger coming up today. We got arbitration. I got another bit I'm trying to work on here. I might lay out and let you guys kind of feel it out, see what you guys think. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050N on TSN 4. Overdrive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Doug Armstrong of the St. Louis Blues here in a few moments. Chris Pronger in about a half an hour. Leafs Panthers tonight. We got a bunch of games in the NHL and a Leafs Panthers as well. And I am quite curious to see, like, Brad Marchand in a Panthers uniform looks very strange.
I think he looks great in that uniform.
You think
some
it works
guys
for
get
him?
Yeah, some guys get traded, and you just look at them in the jersey, and you're like, I think, like, this is really, like, superstitious thing. Like, I think the way the jersey fit and looks is, like, a big part of success. If it's, like, a bad look and you got a different number, sometimes you're just a different guy. But it's 63, he's a little rat, and he's playing with a bunch of other rats, and he fits right in, and it's just a perfect fit.
Yeah. I think it is the way that team plays, their reputation probably helps.
Yeah.
Where, if you go to a team that just, if he's playing for the Utah Hockey Club or something, you're like, I don't know.
He's trying to face wash guys.
Yeah. Doesn't work, man. But Florida works. Florida does
they work. They play irritable, but you're right. Like, there are guys who have changed organization. Like, Stamkos still looks weird in a Nashville jersey for me. Like, it just doesn't, I don't know. Watching him, it just doesn't.
The whole scenario is weird for that, him and the team.
And they've had a rough go. I get that. But it just, it doesn't look right. I mean, Tampa's fine with that. That Jake Gensel, all he does is score goals and enjoy life in Tampa. But, you look at a legacy player that changes, sometimes it just doesn't look right. Marchand, he looked comfortable. I watched this game the other day. He was fine. Like, he passed to Bennett in overtime, wasn't that? That was the...
Yeah, he set up the OT winner.
Yeah. I mean, he's, he'll be fine there. It's just a matter of health. But, when is Ekblad's 20 games up?
He's going to miss the first 2 games of the playoffs. So that's it. Like, you got to take advantage of them. Like, they're kind of leaking oil a little bit. Kachuk is still out. Ekblad's out. You got to get them tonight. Like, if you're the Leafs, you got to get them and put them in the rear view.
Back to back, why not, man?
Yeah, tonight's the night. Like, you put the motor down. I think it's really important too for Stolarz against his former team. I don't know how you guys feel about it when you would go up against former teams, but that's the one that they still got him. they got his number, and he was there, and they let him walk, and he signed within the division, and it sure sounds like he's going to be the guy. We'll play this clip from Craig Berube a little bit later on about his approach to a tandem goaltending setup come playoff time.
I've never done it.
Yeah, it was a pretty interesting answer from Craig. Yeah. I think it might have possibly shined a light on what his philosophy will be come playoff time. But I think it's big for Stolarz tonight, Noodles. For him, you got to beat your former team, man. You got to get him if you think you're going to play him in the playoffs.
Well, that's where I was going to go. It doesn't matter. You can get them, and if this is November or December, like this is, you could be playing them 3 weeks from now for keeps. So, as much as he knows them, they know him, and it's about confidence. It's about timing of stuff, and throughout a 7-game series, there are adjustments. So that these guys played with him last year. They know exactly, where they believe they can beat him, and he knows their tendencies of how they like to play and attack the net. So it can go hand in hand. To me, it'll be an interesting approach, but he does need to, solidify himself as a one or the guy that they want to go to in the playoffs.
Yeah, for sure. And he gets that opportunity again tonight. 0-2 against the Panthers, the team. And I think Berube handled it really well today when he was asked about that. He said, we are 0-2, like not just Stolarz. The team is 0-2 against Florida. And, I would anticipate it's going to have a playoff feel to it tonight. That's what all the players are saying, and they understand what's on the line tonight. One team that we were not certain was going to be a playoff team, I'd say about 3 weeks ago, would be the St. Louis Blues. In fact, I think if we were going around the table, I'm not sure any of us would have picked them to get in. And now they've won 10 in a row. They're red hot. They're in the driver's seat. They did it again last night.
Yep.
And now it's not about sneaking in that second wild card. Like they're in the first wild card right now in the Western Conference. It's just been an incredible run. And the GM of the team and the man that's been there for a long, long time joins us now back on Overdrive. Here is Doug Armstrong. How you doing, Doug?
Gentlemen, I'm good. How are you guys?
We're doing very well. This must be a lot of fun, I would think, for you to put your feet up and watch your team win 10 in a row.
Yeah, it certainly beats the alternative, that's for sure.
Doug, how did you see through this? Like, sometimes we've been critical of GMs in the past for falling in love with ideas that clearly weren't going to work, but is this what you saw? And how did you see this type of team play in these results when they weren't there? Is that the most difficult thing, being a GM, of knowing it and seeing it and it's just not happening?
Well, I would say that when we started a couple of years ago, we had a really nice run for better part of a decade, but that group had matured and we had to go on to that next group, and we bought some younger players in, and we knew we were going to go through some difficult times. But as we were doing that, I think as an organization, we just tried to build a foundation that when we got up and running, it could be sustainable, and we're starting that. I think obviously bringing Montgomery in certainly helped us. What I like about what Jim has done, you look at our younger players. I'll take a player like Bolduc, who's playing his best hockey of his young career, but then a player like Schenn, who's been here in the NHL for a long time, is playing his best. So I'm fortunate enough to work with a coach now that is getting, if that's the goalpost, your youngest and oldest players, and they're both playing great, I assume the guys in the middle are doing well too. So Monty's done a really good job, but I give the players a ton of credit. They understand that where we are as an organization, our belief is that we have to have a team mentality, a pack mentality. And when we do that, we can overcome injuries like we are right now with Parenko, and that's helpful. But I think really what we're trying to do is just build something that of a foundation that we can grow on over the next decade, and have these younger players come into something that they can believe in.
Doug, did you were bold. You made, obviously, every headline. We've talked to you about it before, but you make the offer sheets to Broberg and Holloway, and they're both fantastic players. I don't think anybody would argue about that. But did you see this much success this early from these two young players?
No, no. We were excited about their potential, and they had been really brought along at a proper pace, quite honestly. Young players get thrust in the league, and they were able to hone their skill in the American Hockey League, and they were at a good point for us, and we were able to give them the platform to play all the time and play through ups and downs, and they both played fantastic, and we hope that this is just the starting blocks of what are going to be really good careers. They're both in their, I think 22, 23, 24 in that range, and so they're just not even entering, but they're just about entering the prime of their career. So hopefully they can build off this and continue to grow with people like Neighbors and Bolduc and Hofer and Tucker, and we have a bunch of younger players, Thomas and Kyrou, that are right in their mid-20s too. So it's a good group, and hopefully a group that can skin their knees together, learn together, and then grow together and win together.
For whatever reason, offer sheets have just not really been a part of the program in the NHL, for the last 20 years or so. But now that you've gone through what you've gone through, offer sheeting those two players, getting both players, and then performing the way they're playing, do you think we could be witnessing a new era here? Would you anticipate more offer sheets in the future in the NHL?
No, I actually go the other way. I just think that we needed a perfect storm. We needed a stagnant cap, which had been there for a while. And right now, the NHLPA and the league announced the cap growth over the next 3 years. It's going to be large. And so I think, and this is my belief, I could be wrong, but I don't think anyone puts an offer sheet in to harm a team. They put it in if they think they can get the player. And I think as the cap continues to grow and there's new money in the system, the ability to match these is going to be greater and greater. And the 32 owners, they can all. There's not a number you can say that they can't write a check for and sign. So it's not about having the money or not wanting to spend the money. It's about having the cap space. And I think the cap space is going to continue to grow, which is going to make offer sheets maybe a little more difficult to see a vision of where you're going to get the player.
With Doug Armstrong, the GM of the Blues, and around the trade deadline, there were some players on your team that were out there, on the grapevine, so to speak, and we were buzzing about them up here in Toronto. I don't know how truthful it was or not. You would know that answer, but as you look back on it now, was it ever close to you saying, you know what, I got to move in a different direction here? Or as O asked you a few moments ago, was there always that belief that if you kept the core together, and the veteran players in particular, that with Montgomery you guys could pop here? And I guess as you look back on it, you don't have any regrets based on how you handled the trade deadline.
Yeah, there's belief. There's not blind belief. And really when we came out of the at least this is how the Blues operate. You have a plan. We came out of the Four Nations. We were honest with ourselves and to the teams around the league that if we don't start winning games, players will be available, because that's just what, I'm a big believer. Players tell you what to do at the trade deadline more than you tell players what to do. And we came out of that break. We started to win some games, and as we won games, we were honest with our people we were talking to that it's less likely we're going to move current players for future players because they're earning the right. And then they went on that heater, and then at the end, probably the last 3 or 4 days, we were pretty consistent that any deal we would make will have to be a hockey trade, meaning we're going to get an NHL player back that can help us. And I'm obviously I'm happy that nothing did that we didn't make any trades. But going into it, you always have to have a plan, but be flexible to other things that might open up. And I give the players a ton of credit. They understood where we were at, and they did their job, and they won a lot of hockey games, and they continue to do that. And we're still not in a playoff spot yet. We still got to earn, we're not have that X by our name. We got to earn that, but we're pushing towards it, and I give the guys a ton of credit.
Army, you think Binner, after the Four Nations, kind of got a little shot of adrenaline to kind of freshen his game up and kind of have some renewed confidence?
I do. I think that he's a big stage player, and I do believe that if we can, we talk about it internally, let's supply him a team that's good enough and see what he does. And usually when we supply him that team, he doesn't let us down. I think we saw that at the Four Nations. That was a great event, and he gets the accolades. Obviously, go for what he did against the U.S. in the final game. But if you go back to that Sweden game, he made some great saves in the overtime there. If we don't win that game in overtime, we don't get to the finals. So, I've seen him perform like that. It was great for him. And I just think going into that event, we're not naive. We knew that goaltending was a topic around our team. And I think it allows him now to breathe the rest of the summer and enjoy it, winning that event. And I'm happy for him. I'm happy for the country to have a guy like that was able to do that when the lights were the brightest.
With Doug Armstrong, GM of the Blues, they've won 10 games in a row. Are you getting 2019 flashbacks?
There's a big difference, I think. Like we're excited about our winning streak right now, but if you look back at that 2019 team, that we had been on the better part of 6 or 7 years of always competing, believing we were cup competitors, and not getting to the finals. We'd been to the semis a couple of years before that, and that year we sort of pushed a lot of our chips into the middle. We traded for Ryan O'Reilly. We brought in Perron and Bozak and Pat Maroon. So that was a mature team that was trying to take the next step. This is this isn't built like that. This is a younger team. A lot of guys in their early 20s going through this for the first time. So there are similarities when you look at where we've come from to our record, but the way the team was constructed and the expectations of the team going into the year were much different. I always believed that team in 2010 was a good hockey team that had a really bad start, where this team is more maturing and growing, and we're learning how to become a good team.
It's been an incredible run. Congrats on the recent success. Good luck getting that X behind your name or beside your name, and we'll do it again down the road. Thank you, Doug.
Always enjoy coming on with you guys. Take care.
You got it. Doug Armstrong, the GM of the Blues. Yeah, I mean, you compare and contrast, I guess, every team that makes the playoffs, and that team in 19, they came out of nowhere, and then come playoff time, though, they were such a well-oiled machine. It was incredible.
Yeah. You think about that. January 1, they were the worst team in the league, I think.
Yeah, it was January 8th, I believe, that Binnington got called up or whatever. It was like they were last place in the National Hockey League.
Wow, that's amazing, man.
Wow.
And then marched right to the Cup. And, like, we forget, like, they won it in Game 7 on the road in Boston.
Yeah.
Like, that's a, tough barn, all of that.
Craig Berube had the legendary speech before the game.
Speech. Yep, exactly. Like, it just... they found something and ran with it, but they had the players to back it up. So obviously they had underachieved throughout the season, and then put it together at the right time. This is why it's interesting. I don't if are they going to have a market correction, or are they going to keep going? That's what's really interesting for me, because watching them, they don't give up much. Like Montgomery's a hell of a coach. Like you see where Boston is right now.
He's our guy.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, that's why they jumped on him.
Yeah.
I mean, Armstrong said that off the bat. He's like, now I've got a coach now that can do, this, that, and the other. Clearly, he sees a lot of positive out of Jim Montgomery.
Do you remember what he said to Monty when he called him?
Yeah.
When I'm hungry and I see a steak, I want to eat it. And you're my steak, Monty.
Yeah, he was very happy with that steak. And he should be. I mean, they're obviously an incredible story in St. Louis right now. All right, Chris Pronger, in about 20 minutes, we've got arbitration coming up, and I'm going to sprinkle in something a little bit different. We're going to see how you guys feel about it. I don't know if it's going to land, but we're going to try to make it work at around 5:30. Darren Dreger coming up as well. And Leafs Panthers tonight. We'll continue to tee that up. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, we've sent Al's brother out into the city with a pair of Leaf tickets, and you have to guess where he's hiding for your chance to win them. Are you guys ready for the third clue of the week?
Yep.
Hit me.
Hey, Overdrive fans, it's Wednesday, and I'm back to give you another clue to hopefully get you one step closer to finding out where I've been hiding at all week. Here is your clue for Wednesday. This area of the city becomes pretty electric during the big soccer tournaments like the World Cup or the Euros.
All right, Al's brother. There you go. What about
He's on
CONCACAF?
College Street, right?
Yeah, he's probably
in
on
Little
College.
Italy.
Yeah, I think he's in Little Italy. But why can't we get, Copa and CONCACAF and Nations League? Why can't it be fired up for those? I think it probably is. It probably should be. Tune in tomorrow for the fourth and final clue, and the first caller through on Friday with the correct location wins a pair of tickets to see the Maple Leafs play the red-hot Montreal Canadiens, April 12th. Finals Brother, brought to you by McAlpine Ford in Aurora, our family, the Ford family, and you. So Stolarz goes tonight for the Leafs. Do you want to hear Craig Berube on the idea that maybe they'd contemplate a tandem goaltending situation come playoff time?
Let's hear this.
I never have. I mean, I've had to put goalies in situations, but that's something I've never done. It's always, I guess, a question we'll discuss and we'll go over at some point here. Maybe we already have. We'll see.
That's an absolute no.
Yeah, that he just screams like old school. I don't want distractions. Raw. We need energy. One guy's playing. Get hot for us, and that's it. Like that's kind of the messaging I'm getting here. Is we're not going to overthink it and be overly analytical about this. And well, if we put this guy in and that guy on the road, no. Like I'm going to simplify things. Playoff hockey is meat and potatoes, and we're going to go out and hit everything in sight and block every shot, and one goalie's going to play.
And if you're going to ask me, someone in the media is going to say, are you worried about the lack of playoff starts for Stolarz? He's never done this before. He's going to say this to you. He's going to have to figure it out on the fly here because that's what the NHL playoffs is all about. That's going to be his answer, so prep yourself if you're going to ask it.
Mm-hmm. It's true. And regardless of who they play, the guy at the other end will have more experience than them. That's just the truth. Like, it doesn't mean anything because you have to play the games, but whether it's Bobrovsky, whether it's Vasilevsky, or even Ullmark, they all have more experience in playoffs than Stolarz and or Woll put together.
Yeah,
but
that's right.
In the end, those guys have to stop the puck and do their job. So, it's not going to be like, oh, this guy hasn't done anything. You look at Washington's goalies; they've got eight playoff games total between Lindgren and Thompson. But one of them's going to have to play for them. It's ultimately, yes, there are certain scenarios where there is a lack of experience at the position, but it still got to go out and play. That's really what it is.
Yeah, no, that's it, man. And that's not going to change with either guy, whoever it is in net. That's your reality. That the other team, like Bobrovsky's going tonight. They didn't play Bob at the Bell Center last night, and Florida's like, we're going with him tonight because we know what's coming. And Bob is a guy that 2 years ago he went on one of the great runs we've ever seen. I mean that playoff run when he took over in Game 4, Game 5 against the Bruins Boston. In the first round. He never looked back, and he was incredible. And Vasilevsky had done that the previous 2 years. So if you face any of those guys, Ullmark, a bit of a different story because he doesn't have like a history of success in the playoffs, but he has played a lot more.
That's what I mean. He's got starts, and he doesn't have like.
But he can't really sit there and say I've dragged my team to a cup final like the other two. The other two are rare breeds. Like Bob and Vasilevsky.
Well, they're arguably two of the best goalies on the planet.
Yes,
Hellebuck,
and have been for
those
quite some
two,
time.
and yes, like they've won cups. Vasilevsky's won a Conn Smythe.
And they both seem like when they get into a groove, they can just put miles on them. Like they're just like, I'm in the net. And it's some of these, I'm not going to get into my disdain for some of the goofy things I've seen from goaltenders. Is like Peter Mrazek went to Detroit. What did he play? 2 games? And then he's like just gone. Ninja dust. Like these guys are just. Anyway, those two guys, Vasilevsky and Bobrovsky.
I know.
Not going to name names.
They're warriors, man.
Not naming names, but you're just like.
Continue.
Exactly.
Those two guys are great. I love what Bobrovsky and Vasilevsky
Yes,
do.
they show up and they play. But you're right about the boogeyman element of their game and their reputation. Right. Now, the Leafs broke down Vasi a couple of years ago. Called Jonas up. Jonas will tell you.
Dude, it looked like the Oil were going to take down Bobrovsky last year, too. They pulled him in Game 5 or 6, and it was like, what's this guy going to have in the tank for the rest of this thing? It looked like the end was near, but he bounced back, man.
Well, in the previous year against Vegas, he ran out of steam. The whole team did.
Yeah.
But the magic pixie dust, evaporated in that Cup final.
But don't forget that Cup final last year against the Oilers. Bobrovsky stole them games 1 and 2.
Yes, he did. He's
Yes.
phenomenal.
Like, there were
game one.
breakaways and odd man chances, odd man rushes. Like, he was unreal.
Well, Edmonton was down 3-0, but you could have argued that they might have been, if Bob was just average, might have been tied or down 2-1. They might have gotten one of those three at least, or maybe been up 2-1 based on how well he played. But, that's why you play the games. And Bobrovsky, I remember talking to him on the ice after they won the Cup, and I said, did you treat Game 7 any different than the 3 previous as far as your prep? Because they had lost 3 in a row. And he just looked at me and was like, no. Of course you could say that once you won.
Yeah,
but,
you're so relaxed.
But he was like, no, I didn't change my routine. He's like, I wasn't getting, the saves that I wanted. But he said, I didn't change one thing as far as prep, which I thought was pretty cool.
That's impressive and necessary, I think, right? If you're at the top of your craft, man, you can't.
Yeah.
You start panicking and changing things up, man. That can spin you out of control.
Yeah.
And we all remember famously Florida, the private plane. We're flying up. All the wives and kids and parents, and remember that for Edmonton in Game 4.
Yeah,
that was we're flying everyone up. They didn't do that for Game 6. Like, we're not doing this again.
No.
All right, Panthers Leafs tonight. More on that coming up. Chris Pronger will join us, and Darren Dreger still to come later this afternoon as well. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.